this Tampa Bay Lightning team, okay, I sent out a tweet 2 days before the start of the playoffs. And I was thinking about this towards the end of the season, and I didn't think enough people were talking about them, especially considering they had just won the Stanley Cup. And maybe it was because of, Lightning fatigue. Like when a team's just like really good, like even like the Golden State Warriors, it's like, okay, how much can we possibly talk about this team? We know how great they are. They're going to get back to the NBA finals. Obviously when Golden State had their 5-year run where they were one of the greatest dynasties we've ever seen. And listen, the Lightning didn't win or didn't get to the Stanley Cup final 5 times in a row like the Warriors, but this is a team for the last 6 or 7 years that has just been unbelievable. They have the best record, I believe, now in the NHL since John Cooper took over that team. So it's been like a 7-year run where they have the best record. But anyway, going back to my original point, 2 days before the start of the playoffs this year, I sent out a tweet and I said, it's pretty terrifying that the Tampa Bay Lightning played at a 110-point pace this season, despite getting just 38 of a possible 112 games from Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos. Yeah. Like, think about that. Let's talk about the Leafs for a second. Imagine the Leafs not having Austin Matthews, Lepore, for the entire 56-game regular season. So you take out Matthews' 41 goals, or even Mitch Marner for that matter. Take out Mitch Marner's, whatever he had this year, 65 points or whatever the hell it was. And imagine the Leafs like still finishing exactly where they finished without one of those two players. That's essentially what the Lightning did this year. Nikita Kucherov is a former league MVP. He is now leading the playoffs in scoring by 9 points. He's like putting up numbers that we haven't seen since like Gretzky and Lemieux. Like I've been seeing the broadcast flash graphics saying that he's like the first guy with like back-to-back 30-point postseason since like Lemieux and Gretzky.
Since Gretzky, yeah, that's Gretzky. One. Yeah.
And like, so, this team, I just didn't think people were talking enough about what they had done in the regular season. And now we're seeing it all play out in front of our eyes. And yeah, Lepore, man, like this team is just next level. And what do you think? I mean, just give me your take on the Lightning in general.
I think it's that thing like everyone tries to be. Well, I think it starts on one side where they finally did win. So it's kind of that like breath out. So it's like now you just don't really think about them. Like, they won. So you kind of, your brain moves somewhere else of like who's going to win next. And then when people do their picks, they always try to be cute. Like everyone was on, not that it was like out of whack, but everyone was on like the Avalanche bandwagon this year. And I was kind of questioning it because of like their youth and inexperience. And from the beginning, like Tampa was my pick. And not to sound like a hero, it's not a hot take. Like Tampa, I just thought was the best team, and I thought they were going to do it. It'd be interesting to see like these discussions now are going to happen, comparing them to teams of like recent past of, are they the best post-lockout team? Like the one that always jumps out to me is the Kings, the 2012 and 20. The Blackhawks fans are going to come spitting at me, but the 2012 and 2014 LA Kings teams, like those are the teams to me that I look at that I pretty well think like those teams were unbeatable. Like they had everything. Like even quickly comparing, so Chicago had Antti Niemi, and then they had Crawford. And like no disrespect to them, but the Kings had prime Jonathan Quick, and now Tampa has Vasilevsky, maybe the best post-lockout goalie. So I think that this team is that good where like these like all-time discussions happen and they're not even done. Who knows? Like who knows how many cups and finals we see this group win. I mean, the team's going to be very different next year based on their cap situation, but they have everything, man. They have everything. Like as a Leafs fan, it's so crappy to listen to takes all the time when people just tear apart your roster. Because I'm not just about being a Leafs fan, like whatever team we cheer for, you hear people shitting on your roster and they'll always point to something you don't have. And it's like, well, if we had that, we'd have everything and we'd be a total juggernaut. Thanks, Chris Johnson. But like even the years where the Leafs D was a little weaker, they would point to us and say, well, if the Leafs had insert elite teams D here, they could win the cup. It's like, well, if we had that team's D, we'd go 82-0. So like I always like hate those takes, but you point to Tampa and it's like there's no weaknesses. They have high-end scoring. They have depth. They have defensive players. They have a true number one defenseman, and they have like an all-time goalie. What? Oh, and they play in a Sunshine State. Anything else to make the situation more perfect? So it's just this team, man. Like, we shout out Montreal earlier, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, I don't know what you're supposed to do or what you're trying to build. And I always wonder in situations like this. I'd like to get your take on it. If you're a GM and you look across and see the Tampa Bay Lightning, what do you like? What do you say? What do you just like? I'm gonna do the best I can, and hopefully I get lucky if I play them. I mean, that's really it. Like, even you go deeper down, how was Point like a third rounder?
Yeah,
There was that
Point
thing.
was he was a third round pick, and Kucherov was a second round pick.
Kucherov, I thought okay, I thought Kucherov was maybe like late first or something. But and then like things that like even they didn't really know about. Like, I can't believe it's not getting more traction, but like Sergachev for Drouin, like that deal. I mean, they're like, everything's gone their way. And at the end of the day, only one team can win the Stanley Cup. So I guess only one team can be this good. So stars are going to align for one team. And I'm sure if we go through all the all-time great teams, there's a lot of weird and wacky things with regard to how the team was built and how they did get so good. But this is an all-time team, man. We're going to be talking about this team forever. And like I said, they're not even done. So who knows? Who knows like where this is going to go and continue, and maybe we see something really historic. Maybe we'll get to see the first time they got to win their second first. But who would, at this point today, who would count this team out from being the first post-lockout team to win 3 in a row? Right? So
Oh yeah, they're 100%. I mean, I don't know if the futures have already been released, but to win next year's Stanley Cup,
oh, I'm sure that you can bet somewhere.
yeah, they're going to be the favorites for sure. But no, Lepore, I think that's a great topic you just brought up there in terms of who is the best post lockout team. And I think if the Lightning do go back to back here, I really think they are going to vault to number one, because I don't think anyone looks at those Penguins teams that went back to back in 16 and 17 and has them in the conversation. Or was it 15, 16?
You
It was
think?
15, 16,
It was
16, 17.
16, 17. Yeah. And like I kind of like forgot to say Pittsburgh, but like you wouldn't put them at that level. Like, you think, say, playing those, I guess it was kind of like the same era, like playing those Blackhawks or playing those Kings teams, the Pens would have no chance.
No, I don't think so. Like, I know they had Crosby and Malkin, but one of the years they won the cup, I want to say it was the second year, their decor was a disaster.
That was always the opinion
Hazy and Brian Dumoulin.
That was always like the thing on
ice
Leafs
time
fans
during that playoff run.
Yeah, Leafs fans would always scream, "Look at the Penguins! They don't have a D." Like, oh god.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was incredible that Crosby, Malkin, and Kessel were able to carry that team. And obviously, when Matt Murray was good.
Yeah, that's
and now
back to my goaltending point of like, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, like I think about those teams, and I don't think that those Penguins teams were as good as the Kings teams you brought up, or even the Blackhawks teams with Kane and Taves. And even like going back to like 2010 when the Blackhawks had like Kane, Taves, and like prime Duncan Keith and Seabrook, and they also had like Dustin Byfuglien and Andrew Ladd.
Versteeg went forever, man. Like, that
exactly. So yeah, I look at that team. Like, I think that team is really high on my list as well. But man, when you go through this Tampa Bay roster, you nailed it, Lepore. Like, there is not a single hole on this roster. And I think about a guy like Mikhail Sergachev or even like Ryan McDonough. Like, these are like your number 2 and 3 defensemen.
Yeah,
like,
McDonough.
Are you kidding me?
McDonough was like the boss of New York when
it's
he was
just
there.
Insane. Like, those are your 2 and 3 behind Victor friggin' Hedman. Like, this is absurd, man. And then you look at Andrei Vasilevsky, who honestly, he really is in play to be like, I mean, this guy's incredible. Like, let's talk about Vasilevsky for a second, because just looking at the numbers, he right now, through 3 games in the Stanley Cup final, I have my notes somewhere here about Andrei Vasilevsky. He has a .948 save percentage.
What is it for the playoffs?
And right now, during this entire playoff run, he has a .938 save percentage and a 1.94 goals against.
He is a .938.
A .938 save percentage. Like, this is like historically great.
We
Like
were
this is
talking
up
about
there.
things evening out, man. Like that. I don't know. That's a bananas number. That's a
That's
bananas
unreal.
number.
Like that's up there with like J.S. Jaguar, who I believe was like over a 940. Even like Tim Thomas, when the
Yeah.
Bruins won the cup, he had an absurd save percentage. But like Vasilevsky, man, he's like right up there right now. This dude doesn't get enough credit because we talked about this, Lepore, before the show. This is a Lightning team. When you think about them, the first thing you think about is talent and their ability to score goals. You don't think about Andre Vasilevsky. A lot of people think like, oh, any goalie could play on, in front behind this Lightning team. Like stick in X goalie from any team, and he would have a 920 save percentage, and the Lightning would be fine. That's just simply not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it now. This guy has a Vezina. He won the Stanley Cup last season. He's putting up these absurd numbers, during this last playoff run, Lepore. Let me just double check this right now because I don't think his numbers were nearly this good. And I'm just going to check.
Probably not. Those are crazy numbers.
So last year in the playoffs, they were good. He had a 927 save percentage.
Yeah.
Which is still great.
It's really good. Yeah.
But I mean, what he's doing this year is just next level. So yeah, like this Lightning team. And then obviously you look at their forward group. Like, isn't it hilarious that Steven Stamkos is basically a role player on this team?
I had that exact conversation with someone the other day. Like Stamkos is in their depth.
Like it's hilarious. Like Stamkos right now, and I'll just look at the numbers in the cup final. So Kucherov right now has 5 points in 3 games, 3 goals. Palat, 4 points in 3 games. Blake Coleman, Tyler Johnson, Braden Point all have 3 points. Steven Stamkos right now in the cup final, 1 point in 3 games. He's got 1 goal. And it was that power play goal he scored that snuck through Carey Price short side, I believe it was.
Think of it this way.
This is their captain, their $8 million captain, who every Leaf fan in the world wanted Toronto to sign during his UFA offseason, and he is now a role player on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna sum up how good Tampa Bay is in 1 point. Here they are, up 3-0 in the Stanley Cup final. Their captain, who makes $9 million, is it 9, 8, 9, 9?
I think it's a shade over 8. Here, let me actually.
Okay.
I'm just curious now.
So up 3-0, Stanley Cup final, captain making what he makes 8.5, former 65 goal scorer, and he's not even in anyone's brain to win the Conn Smythe. Think about that for a second.
Insane.
And that's insane. Like having a guy of that pedigree, and it's not even a thought. He's, like you said, he's a role player. He's a secondary guy. Crazy, man. Crazy. What a luxury.
And then even going back to last year, how everyone was like, wow, I can't believe Tampa's going on this run without Stamkos. Like, as we all know, Stamkos played, 1 game in the cup final. He scored on like his own. He had like 3 shifts. He scored a goal.
What a goal.
Everyone's like, wow, I can't believe this. But now we're seeing it again. It's because Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point are the actual mega stars on this team.
Yeah.
And you add in, like we said, Andre Vasilevsky and Victor Hedman. Like this team, it just doesn't end with the talent. Then we didn't even talk about like Yanni Gourde and Andre Palat.
Palat's
like,
sick player. Yeah.
Like these, I mean, it just goes on and on. So this team is incredible. I'm expecting them to finish this off, whether it's game 4 or game 5. Who knows how far the Habs actually push this thing. But like you said, Lepore, it'll be very interesting to see the conversations that come out of this. Once the Lightning finish the job here in terms of where people have them as, where they rank among the best post-lockout teams. And I think it's right up there. And quite frankly, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but I think I'd have them number 1 on my list.
Yeah, they're good, man.